Good morning. This is Unit 3, Chapters 7 through 12, and this is our unit on management. And I guess the first thing we should do is define management. Management is the achievement of objectives through people and other resources. So when you're an operator, first-line employee, you're responsible for your work that you are assigned, right? But now in management, your job is to assign work to other people and actually are responsible for their work. So you have, as management, if you're a line management employee, you have the authority and responsibility to assign work to other people, but you still have the responsibility for that work, even though you've delegated it. So management is the achievement of objectives and goals through people and other resources. So you're actually managing the other factors of production as well as people, and you'll have budgetary authority in management, either the authority to write the checks or to budget or participate in the budget process, and at least make recommendations on expenditures, even if you're just starting out in management. So that's a pretty good definition of management, that you're managing people and the factors of production. There are 4 functions of management, and this unit will actually spend time on each of these 4 functions, which would be planning. This is writing the objectives, and there's a planning process. We're going to put you to work actually using the planning process to do a case in case 3. Organizing, this is after you've got those plans developed. You actually need to structure your corporation or your company to implement those plans. So you need to actually design jobs and design your company, and each company gets to organize the way they want to. There's some principles to organization that we're going to talk to that you need to think about, but each company gets to choose how they want to organize. Leading, motivating, directing is all this last, the 3rd function here, which is motivating employees to accomplish their objectives. And management is either motivating employees positively or negatively all the time. And really, as Dr. Deming said, 85% of the time, it's not a people problem, it's a management problem. And so if you're having a problem with motivation, it's you need to look in the mirror. It's management. And the 4th function is controlling, which is measuring to make sure that the objectives and the plans were accomplished, and if not, to make the appropriate corrections. So although we're going to talk about each of these functions separately, planning, organizing, leading, and controlling, actually a manager's probably doing each of those things simultaneously. So we're going to separate them out and talk about them, each function, but often the lines kind of get blurred and you're doing all those things as management. Well, let's talk about the first function, is planning and the planning process. First thing you need is a corporation or any organization actually needs is a purpose, or their mission statements, the philosophy that they have of business. What products and services do you want to provide, and to who? What's your target market, or what customers are you going to get? I like to tell the story on a mission statement of the Walt Disney Corporation, one of my favorite companies. And Walt Disney started a company in 1921, and the first thing the company did was he was a cartoonist, and he developed 3 to 6 minute cartoons, animations to be played before feature films. So the first Disney film was Steamboat Willie, which introduced the world to Mickey Mouse. And if he would have written, if Walt Disney would have written his mission statement, is that my mission is to produce short animations to be played in front of feature films, the Disney Corporation wouldn't exist today, because cartoons are not shown in front of feature films anymore. But instead, his mission statement was much broad. It says, we're going to Disney Corporation is going to provide family entertainment with family values. And so when the rest of Hollywood was thought they were threatened by this new invention, television, well, Walt Disney saw that as just another venue where he can put his entertainment. And they had The Wonderful World of Disney on Sunday evenings. So it's a real broad, seeing his product is providing family entertainment. It's created all the innovation that's at Disney in the theme parks, the Disneyland in Anaheim, California, and started in the 1950s. It was the first theme park, and of course now there's Disney World in Orlando, Florida, and one in Japan and France, and one just opened in Brazil. So the Disney characters are known worldwide. Well, strategic planning is the process of determining the primary objective of an organization, adopting a course of action and allocating resources, doing the budgeting, deciding what's necessary. During the strategic planning, you're actually going to write objectives and establish competitive differentiation. And competitive differentiation is why. Why are a consumer going to go to a Disney theme park instead of a Major League Baseball game? Or why will somebody come to the Disney theme park over another theme park, or go to a Disney movie over another movie? So what does Disney add that at least some group of consumers will see that as an advantage and use that company's goods and services? So the mission statement and strategic planning really is done by the top management. This is the CEOs, presidents, vice presidents, hope maybe with input from lower and middle managers. But the planning, this is the part of the planning process that really is focused on upper management. Then tactical planning is done by more middle level management, maybe plant managers and division heads, and these are implementing the strategic plan, activities related to the, again, more budgeting and allocating resources. One thing is the best way, if you really want to know what a company's priorities or organization's priorities are, is to look where they're spending money. A company, I get financial statements from firms that I own stock in, and you open the first page, and there's always a nice letter from the CEO telling me what their priorities are, what they're really doing, what they want to do. Well, you can read that, and it may give you some information, but if you really want to know what their priorities really are, no matter what they say, is where do they spend their money? Where are they allocating their budget at? And you've maybe heard the saying, "Put your money where your mouth is." Well, that really is where your priorities are, is where you budget the resources. Then operational planning would be done by the supervisory management, which is actually implementing the tactical plans and getting work standards and getting things right down to the very lowest level. Supervisors are the only managers that actually are supervising the work. Well, we need to write objectives, and there's three parts to a well-written objective. The first part is a condition. This is usually a budget. Under what conditions? Under what resources are you going to have to get your performance? Is what you actually want to do? What the action that you're going to do? And then the standard or criterion is how do you know if you're successful, and how do you know when you've accomplished that objective, to what standard? So if objective has all three parts, then it is well written, and so you know what the company is going to do, and everybody can get behind this objective and accomplish it. Objectives should be specific, measurable, attainable, reasonable, and timely. They should be smart, and it makes it a lot more meaningful if you get it right in there, and then everybody can read that objective and know what the company wants to accomplish. And anybody can write an objective. You as an individual, this I hope would be one of your objectives. Given my text, class lecture, study guide, everything that you have, the Blackboard site, I will prepare for my contemporary business exam. Okay, and then so I will attain 70 or 90% or above, or an A on that exam. Well, the condition would be everything that you have to work with, the first one. Given my text, class lectures, and study guides, that's what I have to work with, and then I will prepare for that's the performance, is actually the preparation, and the 90% on the exam would be the criterion. Well, let's talk about competitive differentiation, and each company gets to decide how they are going to differentiate their company. They can improve the management of human resources. This is the case of IBM. They really have the best sales force, and they're known for having really good representation and employees. They care about their customers, and that's how they differentiate themselves. And you could use Deming's total quality management methods, really improve quality, make that your philosophy of business. Ford, quality is job one. You can develop new products and be a very innovative company. This is the 3M company. They pride themselves on introducing a new product every day, every business day, at least one. Not everything succeeds, but they're really, and 3M that's what their differentiation is. Walmart really does a good job of improving logistics, and they do that by using up-to-date technology. And because they do that, they can reduce overhead and prices. So, in fact, the last four, I think, really Walmart is a thing, because they're actually improving distribution. Right now, they're opening Walmart stores all over the world, in China, in Brazil, and Mexico. They've pretty well got saturation in the United States, so they're going global. A business plan. This is in your text what business plan components are. Not every plan may not have every element of this, depending on what the company is, but you definitely need some information about the capital that you're going to need. Often a business plan is devised so that you can raise capital, take it to venture capitalists and banks, and try to raise money. So you want to know what the financial plan is and what capital is required. Talk about what experience the management team has, and you need to know how you're going to succeed. What's your plans in detail that people will want to invest in your company. Well, there's three levels of management. And I don't like the word lower here. I like the word supervisory or first line management better. Especially, there's nothing lower about a supervisory management. Often somebody can spend a very rewarding career in supervisory management, simply because there's much fewer middle and upper level jobs. It used to be this on the left here. You can see the traditional pyramid where there's many lower supervisors or supervisory management. Then there's middle management, and it makes a pyramid. Well, that's not so much the way it is today, because there's a big squeeze in the middle managers. There's a lot fewer of them now. Many of the things that the middle managers once did are pushed down to supervisory management or brought up to upper management, where the organizations are actually flattening and shrinking. Well, there's three basic roles of management. Management actually gathers information and dispenses information, acts as the company's spokesman, actually provides that informational role. They hopefully bring cohesion. They're the figurehead, the company leader, the motivator. And they make decisions. They actually have a entrepreneurial, or they allocate resources, resolve conflict, negotiate with employees and people outside their company to and make decisions. So you can kind of fit in that a manager is doing one of those things or a combination of them. There's skills that you need to be a manager. You have to have technical skills, actually understand how the work is accomplished. Human relations skills, actually interacting with others, and conceptual skills. This is the ability to see the larger picture. Well, first line supervisors really have to have the most technical skills. Often they're the closest to the actual work being performed, and they're the ones that maybe have to train a new employee or step in and when somebody's sick or the job is behind, they have to actually be able to often perform the work themselves. So they actually have to know that and have the technical skills to do it. Conceptual skills, those are most important in upper management, being able to see the larger picture and seeing how things fit together. And human relations skills is needed at all levels of management, from top to bottom. So in every aspect of the company, a company that succeeds really is a team effort. Well, in decision making that managers do, there's two kinds of decisions broadly. There's program decisions. These are decisions that you'll find in your employee handbook. These are simple, routine, frequently reoccurring problems and issues that have well understood solutions. Well, often progressive discipline is spelled out in your employee manual for tardiness. So if an employee comes in late the first time, they're issued a verbal warning. Please, it's important to come to work. Please come to work on time. This is your verbal warning. Next time, you'll explain that the next time they're late, they'll get a written warning. So they come in again, and sure enough, you then have to write them up and write a written warning and put it in their file. And then the next time, tell them that if you're late again for a third time, that the penalties keep getting severer until eventually they get terminated. So that's a program decision. And if everybody's treated the same way, if no matter what their race or gender, there's not a problem, because this is the supervisor followed the same policy for everyone. Then a non-program decision involved complex, important, non-routine decisions and opportunities. Obviously, supervisory managers are going to do a lot more of the program, and after they prove that they can implement the decisions that were programmed, then they're given an opportunity maybe to do some non-program. But supervisory managers, even if they're program decisions, have to use their head for something besides just a hat rack. Here in Ohio, we have winters and snowstorms and ice storms. Let's say it's a level 2 snowstorm, and your employee's a little late for work, but they came. They should be congratulated for getting to work and thanked rather than disciplined. So a manager even has to use their good decision-making ability, even if they have a programmed decision. Decision-making process, often you can gather the facts, both internal and external data, define your problem. A problem well defined is half solved. Identify possible solutions and select one or more of those solutions or alternatives. Put the plan into action, and then follow up. And then as you're following up, this goes as a circle, doesn't it? Because now you're following up, you're gathering more facts to see if there's the issue. If not, keep using this decision-making process. This is good. A way to improve your decision-making is to use this. But not only that, you're going to make some decisions that's going to go south on you. Something's going to not work. You're going to implement a decision, and the company's going to lose money. It's not going to work. So now you're on, the heat's on. Your manager's on you like ugly on an ape, and you can say, "Well, why did you do that?" And you can go, "I don't know." Or you can say, "Okay, these are the facts that I understood them. This is how I defined the problem. These were the solutions that I considered and alternatives that I considered. This is why I chose this. Now it didn't work, and this is what I'm thinking of doing now is implementing this to solve the problem." Which one of those do you think is your supervisor or your boss is going to like? I don't know, or I went through this decision-making process, and this is how I made a decision, even though it didn't work, and not every decision is going to work, but you had a method and some real good reasoning, even if it didn't work. Well, the next step is organizing. We're going to talk about how you build an organization. Well, again, I told you that management is an art and a science, meaning that the art means that each company can decide how they're going to do things, and there's more than one way to do things, and maybe be successful in several ways of doing things. So each company gets to have this as their art, and there's also a science. There's a management sciences. There's things that each manager, each organization or company has to at least consider and think about, and that's what these 5 organizational building blocks are. The first idea here is a division of labor, and this is a very new concept. It was actually written about in 1776 by Adam Smith in The Wealth of Nations. And he talked about how you could divide a watchmaking into 8 specific tasks. And this was before the Industrial Revolution, or just as it was occurring. Before the Industrial Revolution, there were tailors that made shirts, and cobblers that made shoes, and watchmakers that made watches. Well, Adam Smith decided could show that when you divide watchmaking into 8 specific stations and specialize, not only did you get a lot more watches, you got a lot more watches that met better standards, were of better quality. So division of labor works. Again, it's an art too, because if you divide the labor into 2 specific tasks, the worker's not motivated to perform them. This is what happened maybe in the 70s in the assembly lines for auto workers. Their job was just to tighten a bolt, and they got you really need to give people more tasks that are more rewarding too. So after you've got those jobs divided, and then you need to departmentalize them, bring them together, and there's five most common ways to departmentalize. That's the next slide that we'll talk about. You have to decide on the levels of management. How many levels of an organization do you need? Well, sometimes bureaucracy gets a bad name, and the trend is to flatten the organization, right? But sometimes the bureaucracy can get more experts involved, slow down the decision making, which maybe is detriment, but can be a good thing to get more consensus and better decisions if they're slowed down. And so that's sometimes the purpose of a bureaucracy. Another thing you have to consider is the span of control. How many employees can one manager directly supervise? Well, there's some different reasons that affect that, different things that can affect that. The motivation and experience of the employee themselves. The task itself is a more complicated task, lends itself to fewer employees can be supervised. More routine tasks can that lends itself to more employees that can be supervised by a manager. Geographic disbursement, if they're centrally located, again, a supervisor might can manage more employees at a time. If they're dispersed all over the country or all over the world, that might lend itself to fewer employees can be supervised by one manager. So there's a lot of things to consider. Centralization of decision making. You have to decide where those decisions should be made. Well, at Walmart, they have centralized buying. They have companies, suppliers fly into Bentonville, Arkansas, and present to buying teams there that buy for all the stores all over the world. And they gain efficiencies and economies of scale by buying things centrally. So the decision making is centralized. And however, if you're in Bentonville, Arkansas, and you're buying football apparel for the upcoming football season, and you see, well, Findlay and Toledo, Ohio, that's Ohio. Those stores are going to be for Ohio State. So you buy all the Ohio State gear and put that in your stores. Well, if you're in Toledo, you'd miss about half of the customers, because about half of those folks are University of Michigan fans. So if somebody's so the store manager there would know his clients better and maybe make better decisions as well. So you can see that it's a complicated issue. Well, you can departmentalize in several different ways. You can the groups can be jobs together based on function, and almost every company, at least in some ways, functionally organized. This would be the finance, vice president of finance, a vice president of operations or production, and a vice president of marketing and sales. Somebody has to produce it, the good, somebody has to sell the good, somebody has to raise the capital and do the accounting. So product, you can organize by product. This is what Procter & Gamble does in Cincinnati, Ohio. They'll have toothpaste, so there'll be a product that they sell, so the product managers, and then they'd be brand managers. Each brand would, the toothpaste that Procter & Gamble sells would be Ultra Bright and AIM and Crest. Would have brand names, so that's the way it's organized. Almost every company, at least in some ways, especially in the operations part of it, would be organized by the processes: cutting, finishing, shipping. Some organization is done by the customer itself. You might have industrial customers, business-to-business customers, and customers that are maybe online customers. It's a separate division to do things with the internet, or So you can depend on the consumer behavior, you could organize your company around that. Geographically, you might have Ford North America, Ford Asia, and Ford Europe. So you could organize geographically. Some terms you need to know about in management and organization would be the chain of command. And the idea here is that you can actually delineate an organizational chart showing where the lines of authority extends through the hierarchy from top to bottom. And the theory of unity of command means that each employee should only have one supervisor to report to. Well, it's a pretty good theory, but sometimes it's intentionally violated, especially in matrix organizations. You would have actually more than one boss, and when that happens, you have to understand that that's violating a principle of management, and there has to be a real good reason to do that, and know that you're doing it to maximize communication, because if the employee is unclear on what a good job is, if there's two supervisors with different ideas on what a good job is, and this employee is reporting to both of them, that really can have a detriment on motivation. The employee doesn't know what is a good job, and ambiguity occurs, and motivation is lost. Again, we're talking about the span of control, which we covered as one of the building blocks. That the number of employees a manager directly supervises. Well, there's the very most basic organization that you can have would be a line organization. And this is the structure that flows directly from chief executive CEO to the lowest subordinate. And and it directly delineates on an organizational chart with a direct line. Well, if you wanted often line organizations are smaller. When a company is just starting up, it's a small business. As it gets larger and expands, it will often form a staff, which the largest staff departments in many companies would be the human resource department. Actually assist line managers in the area of human resources and staffing, and in supporting their human resources. So as companies get more complex, sometimes in evolution they will have ad hoc committees or temporary committees to solve a problem, and so a committee is a story about a committee is a camel is a horse designed by a committee. That's a little management joke for you. Well, committees can do some things. Often they will get a moderate decision, and that can be a strength or a weakness. It's a strength if that's what's needed, is you've got some extreme positions, you can bring these people in a group together, and often they'll come in and agree to something in the middle, and that everybody can build a consensus around. The disadvantage is, what if an extreme position is needed? Often committees can slow down a decision, and that can be an advantage or a disadvantage. So you get a committee of people, it slows down a decision, and hopefully builds some consensus. A matrix organization is actually putting these teams or committees to work on a more permanent basis, and you bring specialists from all parts of the company to work on specific projects, and this does violate that unity of command principle. Well, there's a couple different types of communication. There's formal communication that actually goes through that organizational chart and the structure that's defined by the organization. But no matter how well that organization is put together and the chart is designed, it's impossible that not to have informal communication to fill in the gaps. And sometimes informal communication or the grapevine gets a bad name, but it's as critical to the success of an organization, and it can informal communication can be motivational and good, or it can be bad, just like anything else. So often somebody says, was grapevine accurate? Well, it depends on how you define accurate. Let's say that there's an injury at the plant, and an employee injures his leg. Okay, well, that go through the plant in 10 minutes. Okay, that there was an injury, a workplace accident. Well, and it would be true, but just like the great fish story, when you catch a little fish, and then by the time the fifth or sixth time it's told, it's a whale. Well, the same thing occurs here. By the time the last person hears the story in the plant that the guy lost his leg, and so yes, informal communication usually has some basis in fact, but it can be exaggerated as well. Well, human resource management is such an important area that we actually have a 16-week course on it, and it's a specialization now. It used to be called the personnel department, but when it was just working on staffing. Today it's really involved in a lot of other areas as well, which we'll talk about now. Human resource management then is the process of hiring, developing, motivating, evaluating employees to achieve organizational goals. And I don't know why I've got staffing up here. It should be under here as the first function. And it is. Staffing, and this is what we think of when we think of the human resource department, as the area of staffing. However, all these other areas are important, and actually they are interdependent of each other. They work together. In staffing, if you have a really good training and development department, you put a lot of resources in that, well, you could hire somebody with less qualifications and less experience and train them the way you want them. Okay, and then that would affect the compensation. You could start them out with a lower salary and put that additional money in the training and development. However, if you have a weak training and development area, and that's not something that you spend time doing in your company, then you are going to need to hire somebody with more experience and more ability, and then education, and then you'll have to raise the compensation to get that individual. Well, compensation, that's a big word. Why don't I just use salaries or wages? Well, because compensation involves a lot more than just wages today. It's they used to call them fringe benefits, but they're not very fringe anymore. It can be a 30-year compensation, could be health care, and all the other things that are needed in a compensation package, the IRA, retirement, or 401k matching, and things like that as well as part of the compensation. Health and safety. This is often a compliance with OSHA regulations, and OSHA stands for the Occupational Health and Safety Administration. It was established in 1971, and OSHA claims for all kinds of credit. This is government working when they say that that workplace injuries and deaths have decreased substantially since the 70s, since it was established. Well, I'd agree that that's the case, but that the workplace deaths and injuries have significantly gone down. But I would argue the cause and effect. I think two other factors besides OSHA being established caused that better health and safety. One is our most dangerous plants have moved overseas because they can't comply with the regulations. So if you've got a really dirty plant, you're probably not going to put it in the United States. And the other thing is the equipment. The tools are much better, robotics and computers and things that. So our tools and equipment's much better, and outsourcing have really created, I think, but OSHA can take the credit. Employee and labor relations, this is dealing with labor unions. You're responsible if you're in a organization that has a union as management. Your job is to know what that contract is and limit the amount of managerial authority that is ceded to the union. So you ever heard the saying that if you give them an inch, they'll take a mile? Well, the union steward's going to press you, and they're going to know exactly what is said in that union agreement, and you need to follow it and not to cede more managerial discretion to the union than is possible. And if you're in a non-union plant, you're to use all legal means to prevent a union from forming. Well, one of the best ways to prevent union formation would be to pay a little additional money than the union shop would get. We say, well, that's not what the union tells me. The union says that I can get higher wages if I'm a union employee. Well, I disagree with that, because wages don't come from coercion. Wages come from productivity and additional money into the company. Well, let's say you got two companies. One's a union company, one's a non-union company. Then you've got, in both companies, you've got a painter and an electrician. Well, in the union company, one day you come in and the painter's got lots of work, but the electrician doesn't have very much work. Well, in the union company, you can't assign the painting to the electrician. And however, in the non-union job, you can have the painter pick up, or the electrician pick up a paintbrush. And so obviously the non-union shop can be, by retaining that managerial discretion, that can be more productive. And the best way to prevent a union from forming is to share some of that additional productivity and pay a little higher wages with employees. Well, the last thing here is human resource research, and you can actually research the effectiveness of all the areas of human resource management. In staffing, you can do a turnover. You could do find out what your turnover rate is for your company. Well, what if you had 50% turnover? Some people will say, well, that's terrible. How do you know? Well, if you were in fast food industry and if you held your staffing turnover rate to 50%, picture would be on management today as a manager of the year, because the average turnover is 400 or 500%, in McDonald's. So, staffing. So you want to compare the turnover rate to past results, past performance, and industry indexes, and you can see how you're doing. You can do some research in the area of training and development. You could do some pre-testing. You can see how much your employees can use the Microsoft Office. And then you could bring in some training, spend some money there, and then retest and see how much more your employees could do with the Microsoft Office software. Or you could ask them, your employees themselves or supervisors, what training you think is needed. So research can be done. One thing our government does is they keep a lot of information on compensation. So you can actually go to salaries.com, find out what an electrician earns in Northwest Ohio. Well, let's say it's $21 an hour. Well, you're paying $23 an hour. Can you defend that to your shareholders and say you're paying more? Well, I could, because I would say my electricians, I've reduced my turnover rate. Our electricians are experienced and do a good job, and so we're going to pay them that higher rate. Well, if you can research and find that you're only at $19 an hour, well, that's gonna you should watch that. You can decide that you want to pay a little lower wages than the market, but then that does risk losing some good people. So you need to actually be on top of what the compensation rates are in your area. Well, research in health and safety area, OSHA requires that you report injury rates, and that's compared to people in your industry. And if your injury rate is higher than the average, or if you have a workplace death, you always get a visit from OSHA, and it's not a pleasant visit. It's like one-stop shopping. OSHA they're the ones that write the regulations and the rules. They do the enforcing of the rules, and they also assess the penalty. You as a business owner have only one recourse. You can take them to federal court in Cincinnati. Good luck. So that's a requirement that research be done and those statistics kept. Employee and labor relations, you can bring in an independent party and get good research on employee satisfaction and find out what your employees think about management and a lot of different things. How are they happy employees? Well, when you decide to bring in that and do that, management has to recognize that they're going to be surprised a little bit. Sometimes management thinks, well, things are going fine, but often when they open up the can of worms, they find out maybe they're not as happy as we thought they were as management. And you have to be prepared to spend some resources to do some things that they recommend in this research, because if you don't, then motivation can be you're asking employees for their input and then you don't do anything to react to that. That can be a problem. So, and employees are going to come up with some unreasonable thing. They'd like to have the foundry at a balmy 72 degrees. Well, can you make the foundry 72 degrees? No. But you can put in some large fans and perhaps make it a little less tough in the foundry. So, and be willing to do some things. Well, in the theories of motivation, there actually comes in the 1950s from The Ohio State University. Dr. Douglas McGregor came up with Theory X and Theory Y. Theory X, managers assume that employees dislike work, and to motivate workers, managers must coerce, control, threaten workers, and that the average worker wants to avoid responsibility and seek security. Well, Theory Y managers has a much more positive attitude. They believe that work is a natural activity, that workers don't want rigid control or punishment, that will actually seek Maslow's hierarchy of needs here. With favorable conditions, will seek responsibility, attain social and esteem and self-actualization needs from their work. And so there is no such thing, and often my students will say, well, there's a Theory X employee or a Theory Y employee. Well, that's not true. There's managers with Theory X beliefs, and they believe their workers will act immaturely, and if that's the way they're treated, it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy. If managers treat employees like they're immature, they will act immature. And there's 3 Y managers, which if under the right conditions, that will work as well. And then the next theory came in the 70s. It's kind of a combination of American management theory and Japanese management theory, where there's more consensus building, broader career paths, and more long-term commitments by the companies and the employees, and where motivation occurs from more of a shared responsibility and team building. So some real good motivational theories comes to the expectancy theory. And this is the expectancy theory is that an expectation that a good effort will result in effective performance will then be followed by a desirable reward. Well, it can break down in at any of those 3 areas. Employees may not put in a good effort, okay, so then that doesn't work. However, if they do put in a good effort and it doesn't result in more effective performance, that's definitely a breakdown. They'll stop trying to put additional effort in if they get the system won't let them, the tools that they have or the system that they're in. Has anybody had a job where no matter how much effort that you put in, you don't get any additional result? Well, that's not motivational. And so this is a great theory. It'll be if it's effective if all 3 parts are there. And the last one is a desirable reward. What is a desirable reward? Well, many of you would say money. Well, money can be a desirable reward, but not necessarily. And especially it'll work maybe in a short period of time, but it probably won't work unless the work itself is rewarding, and the team and there's a lot of other things going on. Money's not as important as often it's thought to be. It's important in maybe the one area. Let's say you're making $10 an hour and you're having a problem keeping your house heated and the phone on and the car payment made, and so you're right at the subsistence level, and your manager comes along and says, I'm going to give you $2 more an hour, and now you're going to make $12 an hour. Well, out of appreciation and gratitude, I think most people would perform a little better or work a little harder, at least for a little while, out of appreciation for that. However, let's say you're at $80,000 a year, more of a esteem level, and your manager comes in and says, I'm going to give you a $5,000 raise, and now you're at $85,000 a year. Are you going to put in additional effort? Well, probably not. You're going to think, well, I've been working my butt off. Where have you been? And not saying that you should never reward any of your employees, but often that's the case, that money doesn't act as good of a reward as you might think. Equity theory is really achieved, and this is important, in that people attain what is fairness and what is equitable by the workers that are around them. So often, if you've got a really good work team that's motivated and doing well, and there's one underachiever there, that underachiever will really try to work hard to get up to that level and reduce their feeling that they're being treated inequitably. They will say, well, geez, I'm not putting my share in, and I need to step it up. However, if there's one new employee, let's say a new employee comes in and really wants to do a good job and starts achieving better than the group, often the group will pull them down, and they'll achieve the same after a while. So people will increase and decrease their work depending on the people around them. Positive reinforcement theory. This is the idea that If you reward favorable activity, or you punish unfavorable activity, this is how you train a dog. This is Pavlov's dog. And if you believed in positive reinforcement theory, you'd be very much a Theory X believer. Goal setting theory, especially if you let the employee and the management work together to establish these goals, and that can be very Theory Y then. So these are ideas that and motivational theories. Well, in a union areas of union membership, you could have actually 3 types of shops today, because the closed shop, which only union members can be hired, was prohibited by the Taft-Hartley Act. So under a closed shop, the union would get to decide who's hired. Well, that's a preview of management, and management can't cede that to the unions under the Taft-Hartley Act. However, a union shop, and this would be in Ohio and Michigan and many union shop states, would be that people are required to join a union within 30 or 60 days. Or so you can't, unlike if you're in Texas or Florida, that are open shop states, where both union and non-union can be hired, and union membership is voluntary. Well, an agency shop is a shop in a union shop state, but these are public employees. Owens Community College is an agency shop. So under an agency shop, the members that don't join the union still have to pay the dues, but they don't have to actually be a member of the union. Well, when there's a union dispute, often you can bring in an arbitrator or a mediator. Well, a mediator actually makes recommendations, but they don't have the judicial power to render a decision. They just try to get both parties to agree. An arbitrator actually can act like a judge and make the decision. And both the union and the management have agreed to adhere to what that arbitrator's decision is. Well, in a union strategies, unions can strike. They can refuse to work. They can have a primary boycott. Most secondary boycotts are prohibited under Taft-Hartley, but they can ask customers not to buy the employer's goods. They can picket outside as long as it's on public property and not on the company's property. Management can lock out the employees. They can refuse to let them enter the plant. They can bring in replacement workers, what the unions call scabs. I like replacement workers. Actually, employers in unionized industries can actually work together on the strike. This is a exception to the Sherman Antitrust Law. The Taft-Hartley Act provides some mutual aid pact would allow that. So that's not often used, though. The best strategy here, the ones that's used, is to shift production. Employer can move production from a non-union or to a new non-union plant or out of the country. So if you've got employees striking, you just shift that production, and that usually is the most effective. Well, unfair labor practices would be practices that are specified in the Taft-Hartley Act as practices that would violate their rules, and they actually set the rules for both the employer and the employee. So some things that they don't allow would be refusal to bargain. In fact, both sides in a labor management dispute, both sides will file with the National Labor Relations Board that the other side is not bargaining in good faith. Under Taft-Hartley, nobody's required to agree, so you don't have to agree, but you do have to bargain. You have to agree to talking. You have to give a notice, usually 60-day notice for a strike. A secondary boycott, again, is this is what happened with the Detroit News and Free Press. It takes a lot fewer employees now to produce a paper, so they were eliminating jobs, and so the union struck the Free Press and Detroit News. Well, the paper was still being produced because management could produce the paper without the employees. And so in order to put more pressure on the newspapers, they went to an auto dealers that were putting the full-page color ads in and picketing the car dealers for placing those full-page ads with the newspapers. Well, that was found illegal. Feather bedding, this would be a job that has been eliminated technologically, but the union demands that the jobs not be eliminated. This was in the railroad industry when the steam engines were powered by coal. Well, the technology changed. For years, there were people with shovels that were coal loading coal, but there was no more coal to load. They can't have that now. Demanding pay for workers who do no work. Well, this could be an act of bribery to the union president if you want labor peace. And they put the union boss's daughter on the payroll, and the daughter, of course, doesn't show up for work. Well, that's illegal as well. Well, the most simple transformation process would be inputs, and then the processes occurred and then the output, the good or the service, either finished or partially finished inputs, and either finished or partially finished outputs. You have to actually, in the operations, actually produce some wealth, okay, add value from what it was when you got it. And you can do that by production planning. These are making decisions where, when, and how the production will occur, with what resources need to be obtained, and locations cited. You need to control that production, schedule, quality, costs, day-to-day operations, and you need to continually improve, focus on developing new and effective methods. So these are the management decisions that are worked on actually in the operations part of your business. You can have 4 basic facility layouts when you're setting up your facilities. You can have a process layout, the machinery, equipment's put by their function. You can have the product layout or the assembly line, and this is what was innovated in the River Rouge plant by Ford Motor Company. And this set up the science of line balancing. You have to have the same time at each workstation so that the line doesn't bog up on you. Then the fixed position layout, this is done by the necessity. If you're building a bridge or a nuclear submarine, it doesn't go down the assembly line very well. You can have a customer-oriented layout. This is where the customer moves from station to station, like in a cafeteria or in a hospital, where the customer goes, gets their x-rays, and gets their blood test, and goes from station to station. Well, total quality management in operations is actually improving customer satisfaction, really finding out what the customer wants, and then getting employees to participate and empower employees, and to concentrate on continuous improvement. You don't hit a home run, you keep working, improving every day just a little bit more and making things better.